All right, so there's a lot of discussion about AI. It's so funny because 3 years ago, the same people were not talking about it at all and balking at it. But the conversation inevitably goes to um, that AI is going to overtake a lot of the jobs that we actually have. And yes, in the long run, there will be a lot of substitution that will happen, like a ton of substitution that will happen. But in the short run, it's not going to happen as rapidly as what people think. Now, there's going to be a quite an an honest, quite qualitative change in terms of how work is done. But there's a lot of sort of things that I think about as like, hey, this did not happen in other sectors, right? So there's been a lot of discussion about using robotics, for example, in areas that are quite dangerous, right? And 30 years ago, I would have thought, and that was sort of the consensus, was that by now, many of the jobs that we would consider as dangerous or mission critical or what's called, safety critical, um, that they would be replaced by robotics. And we can see that across the board in many places, even the most advanced nations are not yet using some of these tools. We're still quite a long ways away by the time we actually have significant adoption of these things, like robotic, um, working in a gravel pit, for example, right, where they pick up gravel for roads, rocks for roads and things like that. That's still a long ways away, and yet that is pretty dangerous in terms of that particular activity. So I would still say we're probably 20 years away by the time that that is replaced, and maybe even a little longer, right? And it's actually quite surprising. I would have thought my prediction was that the best market to go into in terms of replacing would have been trucking because trucking is it's a tedious, boring, super boring thing that is dangerous, and it's the perfect thing for robots to take over. And yet we're pretty far from that yet. I do drive. I have a Tesla, and last month we had the there was like a freebie for full self driving, and I tried it, but it didn't work that well. So I actually did not use it that much because I tried it. I actually really did test it. It wasn't, try it once and never do it again. But I actually tried to use it, and it was not working. He was driving like a 14-year-old would drive, right? Like not quite confident. You really have to monitor the thing. It made a lot of mistakes that were quite obvious that would have thought a machine would have captured. And I often did not keep up with the traffic, so that's dangerous. Like there was just lots of moments that just were not working. And so in this area where artificial intelligence is very much used and it's important, um, we're not exploiting it enough. We're not using it enough, and we're still a long ways away yet. It's much better. It's pretty remarkable in terms of what it can do, but we're a long ways yet. Even with more data, there just needs to be more processing capabilities. There needs to be better algorithms, and we're too far away yet by the time that this becomes serious mainstream, particularly in the dangerous industries. Now, when it comes to things where there's AI replacement, in things like human minds and computing. I use it every day. I use the sort of the generalized AI material every day, machines every day. And by the way, ChatGPT is the best one still. Um, and it's just not does not replace human capability. It does a good job the way that I think. is a little different now. I think in chunks. I don't necessarily think individual words anymore, but I think in chunks, which is quite a bit different, which does accelerate things. It makes me, as somebody that has, a learning disability, it makes it easier for me to understand things and process things, but it's still a long ways away by the time that this replaces some of the human ingenuity that we actually have. Now, do I think that it will ultimately, there will be, a replacement, a lot of the mundane tasks, particularly marketing and things like that? Yeah, I do. I think that there will probably be a significant replacement. But do I think that there will always be demand for human generated, interesting art? Yeah, I do, actually. So what you're going to see is very much this change of what art looks like. Just like when the internet was introduced, just like when the railway was introduced, just like, any number of different things, sort of remarkable technologies that came in, were introduced. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes. Culturally, things are going to get really different than what it is right now in terms of how we do things. But do I think that we're going to be significantly replaced in the sense of, everybody's job is going to disappear? No, there's still bookkeepers even today that are doing the job that we know that they can be easily replaced with accounting software. Why is that? There's a lot of reasons why people, may not use this accounting software. It's scary for a lot of people. It takes a lot of time for some people. There's just a lot of factors that are going on at play that we know are not going to fully replace what we actually do as human beings. And so what does that mean? What's going to happen is that we're just going to have a lot more variety, and we're going to have a lot more options to do interesting things. The idea that we have to stick with one particular thing in our lifetime, that's probably not the case, right? We can actually learn and train ourselves using some of this artificial technology, artificial intelligence technology, that will greatly improve who we are and what we do. It'll be a lot more exciting. We'll be better human beings than what we are today. And I want us to sort of think about this. It's not, it is, it is unnerving when you can see some of the tasks that would have taken years or weeks to be done in a matter of minutes. But it's still a long ways away. We still have a lot of flaws. I use it every day. But it's very much like a junior assistant, a very junior assistant that doesn't quite know what it's doing. Um, Even with the best available models, it still is quite far away from where it becomes completely remarkable. But even then at that point where it is completely remarkable, we're a long ways away. But by the time, that there's always going to be room for human capability, for at least the foreseeable future for most of us. Now, 100, 200 years from now, who knows? That's a long prediction. A lot of stuff could happen between now and 100 years from now. But in the meantime, I do think that things are going to get amazing. They're just very exciting to watch. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.